Black girl spent her last $5 helping Hell's Angel. Next day, bikers brought a life-changing gift. Rain pooled under the flickering lights of an old roadside gas station. 14-year-old Ava Johnson stood there, clutching her worn-out backpack and her last $5 bill, the money she'd been saving to buy lunch for the next 2 days. Then she heard it, a low groan from behind the pumps. A man lay sprawled beside a heavy motorcycle, his chest rising in shallow gasps. His vest read Hell's Angels. Oil dripped from the bike. Rain dripped from his face. His skin was pale, too pale. From inside the station, the clerk shouted, "Leave him! Those bikers are not your problem, girl. Walk away while you can." But Ava didn't move. Her heart pounded. She looked down at the 5 crumpled dollars in her hand, then at the man dying before her. Moments later, she ran inside, bought a bottle of water and some aspirin, and dropped to her knees beside him. That decision, a stranger's act of courage, would soon echo far beyond that empty parking lot. Because the next morning, nearly 100 motorcycles rolled up to her neighborhood. Before we go any further, what would you have done in Ava's place? Tell me in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Ava Johnson lived on the edge of a forgotten town, the kind of place where factory sirens had long gone silent and dreams rusted faster than the rooftops. Her mother, Denise, worked double shifts at a diner off the highway, her hands always smelling of coffee and bleach. Her father had left years ago, chasing a promise that never called back. At 14, Ava had learned how to stretch $5 into meals that could last 3 days. She walked her little brother Jaden to school every morning, tucking in his shirt and pretending not to notice the holes in her own shoes. Every evening, she stopped by the gas station across from the diner to buy milk, bread, or sometimes just to charge her phone under the buzzing lights. The clerk, Rick, never smiled. He looked at her like she didn't belong, like the color of her skin was already a problem to solve. But Ava never talked back. She just lowered her eyes, said, "Thank you," and kept walking home. Her world was small. Cracked sidewalks, broken promises, and the quiet strength of a girl who never complained. Yet inside her chest burned something bigger than circumstance, a soft defiance that said maybe kindness still matters. That night, the diner closed early. Storm clouds rolled in. Denise called from work, her voice tired. "Ava, make sure Jaden's fed. I'll be home late," but the fridge hummed empty. Only a half loaf of bread and some peanut butter left. Ava sighed, reached into her jeans pocket, and felt the last $5 bill she'd been saving for tomorrow's lunch. She looked at Jaden, small, sleeping, innocent. Then at the clock. On its own PM, maybe, she thought, she could run to the gas station and grab milk before the rain hit. She grabbed her hoodie and stepped into the night, unaware that in less than an hour, her name would spread across town. Whispered first with disbelief, then with respect, because that night wasn't about luck. It was about the kind of courage people overlook, the kind born not from strength, but from compassion. And fate was waiting for her at that gas station, under flickering lights, where a dying man's breath would meet a child's unshakable heart. The rain began softly, a whisper against the asphalt. By the time Ava reached the gas station, the sky had opened up. Neon reflections shimmered in puddles as she hurried across the lot, clutching the $5 bill like it was a secret. She was halfway to the door when she heard it. A low groan, sharp, wet, and human. She turned. At first, she saw only the shape of a motorcycle tipped against the curb. Its chrome glinted beneath the streetlight. Then a man, massive leather jacket heavy with patches, collapsed beside it, gasping. His skin had gone pale, and his hand clawed at his chest. Ava froze. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the rain. Then the gas station door creaked open. Rick, the clerk, leaned out, shaking his head. "Don't get involved, kid," he said flatly. "Those bikers bring nothing but trouble." Ava looked at the man again, his breath shallow, his eyes wide and scared. She could have listened. She could have walked away, but she didn't. Her mom's voice echoed in her memory. "You can't fix the world, baby, but you can always make it better for one person at a time." Ava ran inside, grabbed a bottle of water and a small pack of aspirin. $2.49, Rick muttered, his voice dripping with disapproval. She handed him the bill, her last $5. Then she knelt beside the man in the rain. His jacket read Hell's Angels Detroit. His hand trembled as she tilted the bottle toward his lips. He swallowed weakly, his chest rising unevenly. She didn't know if it would help. She wasn't a doctor, just a girl with no reason to stop. But she stayed. Minutes passed like hours. A truck pulled up to the pump, headlights cutting through the rain. The driver saw them, the black girl kneeling over a biker, and rolled up his window, muttering something she couldn't hear. Then came the sirens. Faint at first, then closer. By the time paramedics arrived, the biker was breathing again. Barely, but alive. They lifted him onto a stretcher. One medic asked her name. She hesitated, then whispered, "Ava Johnson." He gave a short nod. "You saved his life, Ava." Rick stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Saved a criminal," he muttered. "Don't expect thanks from that crowd." Ava said nothing. She just watched the ambulance drive off, its red lights fading into the storm. That night, she walked home soaked and silent. Her $5 gone. Her stomach empty, but her heart strangely full. She didn't know the biker's name. She didn't know his story. She only knew one thing. She couldn't have done it any other way. The next morning, her mother found out. "Baby, why'd you give away your last money?" Denise asked softly. Ava shrugged. "He needed it more." Her mother smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides tears. "You've got your daddy's heart," she whispered. The day passed quietly. Ava walked Jaden to school, came home, and helped her mom fold laundry. But as the sun dipped low, a strange sound began to rise from the distance. Deep, rhythmic, like thunder on the horizon, engines, dozens of them. The sound grew louder, closer, until the windows rattled and the neighborhood dogs started barking. Denise stepped onto the porch. "What in the world?" she whispered. Ava followed her, and froze. The entire street was filled with motorcycles, a sea of chrome and leather, engines idling low. Neighbors peeked through blinds, children pressed faces against windows, and at the front, dismounting slowly, was the man she had saved. His chest was still bandaged, but his posture was steady, his face calm. Behind him, the rest of the bikers stood in silence, their jackets gleaming under the afternoon sun. Ava's heart pounded. Was she in trouble? Did she do something wrong? Then the man stepped forward, something shining in his hands. The engines quieted one by one until the neighborhood was wrapped in a strange silence. Not peaceful, but expectant. Ava stood frozen on the porch, her small hands gripping the railing. Her mother moved behind her, tense, uncertain. The man she'd saved the night before stepped closer, his heavy boots echoing against the pavement. The patch on his jacket read Hell's Angels, Detroit chapter. His face was weathered, scarred by time and miles, but his eyes were warm, steady, human. He stopped a few feet from her. For a long moment, no one said a word. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket. Every muscle in Denise's body tightened. But what he pulled out wasn't a weapon. It was a folded photograph, worn soft at the edges. He unfolded it with trembling hands. It showed a little girl, maybe 10, sitting on a motorcycle, laughing beside a man who looked just like him, only younger. "This," he said quietly, voice rough with emotion, "was my daughter." He looked at Ava. "She died 5 years ago. Same age as you." A murmur ran through the other bikers, some bowing their heads. The man's voice shook. "When I saw you kneel beside me last night, I thought I was seeing her again." He took a deep breath. "You saved a stranger, but to me, you brought my little girl back to life for a moment." Ava's throat went dry. Her mother's eyes glistened with tears. The man turned, motioned toward his bike, and then the entire group began to move. One by one, the bikers rolled forward, parking in a perfect line across the street. Then they stepped aside, revealing something behind them. A brand new bicycle. Glossy black with silver handlebars and a bright red ribbon tied to the seat. Ava's mouth fell open. The man smiled. "You gave me my life back, kid. We just thought we'd return the favor." He gestured toward the bike. "And that's not all." From the saddlebag of another motorcycle, a woman pulled out 2 envelopes. One was addressed to Ava Johnson, the other to Denise Johnson. Ava opened hers first. Inside was a gift card and a handwritten note. "This is for school supplies, shoes, or snacks. Whatever you need. No strings, just gratitude." Her mother opened hers next and gasped. It was a check, enough to cover 2 months of rent. Denise's knees buckled. She steadied herself on the porch post. I can't accept this," she whispered. But the man shook his head. "It's not charity, ma'am. It's thanks. That $5 was more than any of us have given in years. You raised her right." Tears welled in Denise's eyes. Ava looked between them, overwhelmed, joy and disbelief crashing together like waves. The man reached into his jacket again and pulled out something small, a dog tag. He knelt and placed it gently around Ava's neck. "I wore this in the army." he said softly. I kept it after my daughter passed, to remind me of the people worth fighting for. He paused. Now it belongs to someone who still believes in kindness. Ava stared at it, the metal warm from his hand, engraved with faded letters. She didn't know what to say. Behind him, one of the bikers revved his engine, just once, a low, respectful growl. Then another, and another, until all 97 engines roared together, a thunderous salute that shook the street. Neighbors stepped outside, some clapping, others wiping tears. The man smiled faintly. Not all angels have wings, kid. Some ride on 2 wheels. Then he turned back toward his motorcycle. The others followed. One by one they rode off, the rumble fading into the horizon until only the wind and the faint smell of gasoline remained. Ava looked down at the tag, the reflection of sunlight glinting off it like a tiny star. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for sure, that $5 hadn't been lost. It had multiplied into something no money could ever buy: faith in humanity. The roar of engines faded into the distance, leaving behind an echo that hung in the air like a heartbeat. The street, moments ago trembling under thunder and chrome, was silent again. But it wasn't the same silence as before. It was peaceful. It was full. Ava stood on the porch, fingers tracing the dog tag that rested against her chest. It felt heavy, not just in weight but in meaning. A reminder that kindness, no matter how small, always leaves an imprint deeper than anyone can see. Her mother knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. The check fluttered slightly in her hand, caught by a soft breeze that smelled of oil and hope. Across the street, where the bikers had stood, the sunlight pooled like a quiet blessing. The tire marks they left behind weren't just rubber. They were proof. Proof that redemption could wear leather, that empathy could roar, and that sometimes angels came in the unlikeliest forms. That night, Ava placed the dog tag beside her bed. She stared at it as moonlight hit the metal, the engraved letters gleaming faintly. Honor. Protect. Remember. She smiled. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel small, because she finally understood. Being rich isn't about what you keep. It's about what you give when you have almost nothing left. Days later, her mother framed the thank you note the bikers had written and hung it by the door. And every morning before leaving for school, Ava touched the frame, whispering the same words that had changed everything. Kindness never goes unnoticed. Word spread fast, through neighbors, the local paper, then the internet. But no viral post could capture what really mattered. Not the check, not the gift, but the quiet look a little girl shared with a stranger she'd saved. 2 people who'd reminded each other that goodness still lives out there. And maybe that's what we all forget sometimes. That behind every rough face, there's a story. Behind every scar, a lesson. Sometimes all it takes to bring light back into a broken world is a $5 act of courage. This is Black Response, where the underestimated rise in kindness always finds its voice. If this story moved you, like this video, share it, and comment "Kindness wins" to show the world that compassion still matters. And before you go, watch our previous story for another powerful message that'll stay with you long after it ends. Because empathy doesn't whisper, it roars.